Hey everybody, this is Jack at the Paranormal Intelligence Agency. Thank you for being with me today. And sorry, getting some things situated around here. It's been a while since I've been back in this office and where I record a lot of these videos. I'm back in my Oklahoma property, and this is where I will be doing a lot of cryptozoology work over the coming 6-7 months. The winter time is a great time in the south for crypto work because the dense foliage all falls off and it allows us to penetrate into areas you just can't get into in the summertime. The Ozark Mountains are thick like a jungle, and it's just tough to traverse through them. A lot of them are snake infested and ticks and all kinds of stuff, and a lot of that just disappears during the winter time. So for us southern cryptozoologists, it's the prime time to get a lot of work done. Been on a little bit of a hiatus, and that's simply because I have been busy putting together and preparing a company. It's an online drop shipping company that now has 3 and soon to be 4 storefronts: Amazon, eBay, Shopify, and soon Walmart Marketplace, in which the revenue and proceeds actually feed into the PIA and our ability to actually do operations with our own self-funding. And this will free us up from any sort of, outside influence. I'm not a big proponent of receiving donations, etc. So I believe providing some sort of service or good in return for that funding, and that sort of funding just isn't available in the cryptozoology / paranormal investigator world. Maybe one day it will be, because the importance of the science of cryptozoology and paranormal studies is becoming forefront now in a lot of the Pentagon's UFO program. That's something that's extremely important. And recently it has come to my attention that a major event is being predicted now. And it's not by one source alone, and so we could, maybe write it off. But when 6 of the world's best, most accomplished remote viewers all claim to see roughly the same thing, and that lines up perfectly with findings from Cliff High over at halfpasthuman.com, then you have to stand up as a paranormal investigator and really pay attention to that. Because if you know anything about remote viewing and about Cliff High's webbot, then you know that there is a paranormal aspect to them. One is using human psychic abilities in order to retrieve information from a target in any place, space, or time. And with Cliff High, you're seeing a brilliant application of neuro-linguistic data analysis. And that is used in order to pick up unfolding patterns in our reality matrix. Now, the two systems have come together. In other words, the two groups, the 6 remote viewers and Cliff High, have communicated their information to one another, and it seems to corroborate. And I will simply read you a summary of what that information is, because I actually posted it for followers on Facebook and for our Facebook page, etc. So here it is in a nutshell. And if you don't know anything about the WebBot, I would encourage you to examine how it works and how Cliff High's system works, and the differences between that and how remote viewing works, and how when they line up, the probabilities of that being completely random are astronomical. If you're an investigator like me, you really have to pay attention to this. So upcoming event alert. It has come to my attention that a major event is being predicted by 6 of the world's leading remote viewers and Cliff High's neurolinguistics data trend analysis programs. This is an alignment that people like me pay extreme attention to. To make a very complicated story very short, the details are that this event, possibly 90 days or less away, will have the emotional release value 13 times that of 9/11. Read that last sentence again. It appears it will be a man-made event and not a natural catastrophe. The only clues about the target seem to insinuate a target in the western half of the U.S. Cheyenne Mountain and DIA were both mentioned by name as possibilities by Cliff High. This will be a long duration event taking many hours and will be witnessed and recorded by, I quote, people in suburbs standing out in the streets, pointing their phones to the hills and recording the disaster, end quote. Cliff High's WebBot states that this emotional value release of 13 times 9/11 is already baked in the cake. In other words, it's a done deal. Unless the, I quote, decision by unknown persons is not made because of the amount of public scrutiny. So in other words, the event will take place, and it appears to be a man-made event. And unless enough scrutiny is poured upon the event itself beforehand, then it's already baked in the cake. The only other option is for the plot, whatever you may call it, become known to the people, and then you have sufficient release language to explain what happened with this alignment between the WebBot and the remote viewers. One or the other has to happen. Either a massive plot of some kind becomes spoiled and known to the world, in which case it produces 13 times the release language caused after 9/11, or the event will occur. Those are the only 2 options. The other thing is that after this event, everything before it will be considered, I quote, ancient history. These are the same people that have predicted a big number of hits. Their record is astounding, and as I learn more, I will pass it along. So, everybody on my channel knows what I do and how I investigate and how I put these different pieces together, and when these pieces naturally come together the way they have between these 2 groups, and they seem to corroborate each other to a huge degree. I will add that Cliff High stated that he had been picking up bits and pieces of conversations around the world, blog posts, things like that, that seem to be predicting some sort of huge event. And in every one of those cases, it was some sort of psychic. And there were a disparate group of languages like Turkish and Farsi and Vietnamese and, stuff like that. So when you see an alignment like that and you're right at the cusp, right at the turning into the age of Aquarius, I have to ask, are we seeing the final click into the new age that this event will facilitate? Because everything after this becomes ancient history. Everything changes. So I found that to be important enough to bring to you guys. Now that I'm back in my normal surroundings, I'll be able to, and I'm not working on actually building this company anymore. It's operational and doing its thing. I will be actually back producing my shows as normal. I've heard from many of you about that, so I apologize. It's just been something that was inescapable. There was no way around it. There's nobody else to do it but me, and there's no other way to obtain funding to do the kind of operations I want to do in the Paranormal Intelligence Agency without significant funding. So the other thing was a cryptid update. I spoke at the Kaimishi Bigfoot Conference this last summer. This fall, I will be speaking at the Paranormal Conference in Talamina, Oklahoma. So it's the same place and it's in the same hall, which is a very nice arena. And we'll be doing that on November the 18th. So if anybody out there is interested in doing that, just contact me or get a hold of me. I will produce a link in the description of the show too. So we will be doing a lot of field operations this fall. We have some new equipment, some new night vision equipment, and remote alarm systems and things like that that we're excited to get to use. And we're also going to undertake a field investigation down into the Kennewa Bigfoot and / Dogman area, which is a place I've been wanting to get to for a long time. See if we can't locate the actual headstone of Catherine Cross, where it states, murdered by human wolves, something I've talked about many times. Many people believe that case to be a hoax or some allusion to an illegal operation she was said to have had. That is clearly not the case when you examine the details of what occurred in both of those court cases. Many of you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, I discuss the case of her in one of my videos called The Dogman of Oklahoma. So take a look at both of those. I will add that there weren't really many significant breakthroughs in either the Dogman or Bigfoot Enigma over the past 6, 7, 8, 9 months. It's been a real dry spell, and it's like investigators have hit a plateau and they just keep trucking along that same plateau without making much more progress. And I have to say that in my book Paranormal Planet, I postulated that any bipedal cryptozoological animal would have to be a chimera of some kind. And by chimera, I mean an animal life form that was created by some non-human intelligence. In other words, the ETs. And this was either done in the past or it's being done on a continuing basis for an unknown reason. But these creatures have abilities which are a far cry above all the other life forms on the planet. And we don't see any gaps like that anywhere else in life forms on our planet. You have Sasquatch up here and everything else down here. There's nothing to fill this gap. There are no other animals with just a few of those abilities or a few of those, intelligences, ways of getting around humans, of staying hidden this long, is an impossibility without the DNA to allow you to do such things, and that sort of DNA shouldn't have a gap between it and all the other life forms on the planet to that degree. It just doesn't make logical sense. You add to that Sasquatch is virtually found on every single continent around the world in one form or another, and no other species on the planet are found on every continent. It's the only one. There's like a dung beetle and a type of bird that are the only, life forms found on every single continent. So those are perpetual thorns in the side of this mystery. And because of disappearing track lines and because of a whole mountain of paranormal evidence that I have, I came to the conclusion that these creatures, along with Dogman, have to, in fact, to be an alien chimera of some kind. So let me get rid of something here. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Vortex Theory. So with the new show Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, there's been a lot of questions coming into me about vortexes and these different areas around the country and around the world where you have a wide array of paranormal activity all taking place within a very small geographic area. And I cover this in depth in my book Paranormal Planet, in which I discuss my unified field theory of paranormal activity and the fact that the vast majority, if not all of these areas, have huge quartz crystal deposits in the underlying topography, and they may be deep, but they're there. And I proposed the idea that these quartz crystal deposits were becoming ionized to such a degree, and they get ionized by being compressed. That occurs because the Earth is traveling through space, and when matter travels through space, there's minute fluctuations that causes that compression. It's momentary. But when they become ionized, they produce electromagnetic fields that are so strong that they're able to rip or tear a membrane, an electromagnetic membrane that separates our dimension from other dimensions. And when that happens, we get intermittent contact with the life forms on these other dimensions, and we describe that mechanism and activity as paranormal. So in these various areas, what you're seeing are doorways opening and closing to other dimensions. That's why I refer to the Earth as a paranormal planet. We may be unique in our topography and the construction of our planet. And I refer back to research which I am currently undertaken for my new book that'll be coming out about vortexes. And recently I came across some research that has been both confirmed by works of Ivan T. Sanderson and Invisible Residence, as well as by Bruce Cathy in his Harmonic Conquest of Space series of research that seems to insinuate and points to research done at the USSR Academy of Sciences way back in the 1970s, showing how they were able to show how the Earth was once one giant crystal. And as it turned in space, it slowly became rounded off, but that there were still 12 small areas, small bumps in this crystal. And it formed a perfect pentadodecahedron, basically. So if you look that up, you'll see what I mean. A dodecahedron is basically what it is. And in each one of these 12 areas, which if you match where the USSR scientists show these areas to be, with the vile vortices described by Ivan T. Sanderson in Invisible Resonance, they match up perfectly. So we may have in fact discovered that the 12 major doorways through which interdimensional ET activity is taking place, and when you match that to a lot of work done by a scientist named Bruce Cathy out of New Zealand in the 1970s, he showed that a lot of evidence to show that there was a grid pattern on the planet itself that the UFOs were following as a sort of roadway system. Why they do that, we don't quite know, but they seem to come and go from these 12 areas into this grid system. In other words, the grid system is emanated by these 12 nodes, if you will, and each one of these nodes is itself a sort of interdimensional doorway. So that's where my new research has been going, and I just wanted to put a quick video out there for you guys. The next one up, I'll be actually doing some, I think it'll be the video of field work that we did this past summer. I'm gonna have to edit it. But I will keep you updated as more stuff comes out. There's been a lot of activity in the UFO disclosure world, but nothing explosive ever since, the whistleblowers coming out and talking about biologics on board the craft, etc. We would expect at some point that there's going to be more movement towards that, but with all the political intrigue that's been going on, it's tough to get an audience. You know what I mean? People are just too worked up right now with all the other stuff that's going on. And the economy is in complete shambles. We're being completely invaded, and we're under siege. These are rough times. So I will see you guys in just a few days, and we'll have a paranormal news update. There's a lot of just paranormal news out in the world, and interesting, I guess, crescendo of spiritual-like activity taking place. Anyway, it comes and it goes. But I will see you guys very soon, and thanks for being with me.